Max Verstappen, reigning F1 champion, isn't just breaking records on a track, he's also building an incredible collection of supercars. From Ferraris to Porsches and even a few surprises like Renault, his garage is a reflection of his need for speed. Since his first F1 victory at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix, Verstappen has spared no expense on some of the world's most exclusive and high-performing machines. But with so many jaw-dropping rides, one question remains: which car in his $300 million collection takes the crown? Now, let's be real for a second. Most of us can only dream of owning one supercar, let alone a collection worth $300 million. But Verstappen, he's living that dream. And it all starts with one of the wildest cars you could imagine, the Aston Martin Valkyrie. You know, when you've had the kind of success Max has had on the F1 circuit, it makes sense that you'd want to carry some of that speed into your personal life. The Aston Martin Valkyrie isn't just any supercar, it's a hybrid beast designed by Adrian Newey, the same genius behind many of Verstappen's championship-winning F1 cars. With 1,160 horsepower under the hood and a screaming 6.5-litre Cosworth V12, it's practically an F1 car for the road. And yeah, it's loud. The sound of that engine revving, it's like a symphony for gearheads. Max was spotted taking his Valkyrie for a spin along the French Riviera, a place as glamorous as the car itself. But as with many things involving Verstappen, it didn't go unnoticed when he might have pushed a little too hard in a tunnel, sparking rumors of him breaking the speed limit. Now, whether he did or didn't is anyone's guess, but can you blame the guy? When you're behind the wheel of something that can hit 60 miles an hour in under 3 seconds, keeping your foot off the gas probably feels like torture. But here's the thing, at around $3 million, the Valkyrie is more than just a car. It's a statement. It's a symbol of what happens when F1 engineering is unleashed onto the open road. Now, speaking of engineering, let's take a little detour to something more familiar to Max's racing roots, the Honda NSX Type S. This one holds a special place in his heart because all 3 of his world titles have come with Honda engines. Even though they briefly pulled out of F1 and rebranded their power units, that connection remained strong, and to celebrate that partnership, Honda gifted Max something special at their 2022 Honda Thanks Day, a brand new NSX Type S. Now, if you're not familiar with the NSX Type S, let me paint a picture for you. It's not just any supercar. The Type S was the final edition of Honda's hybrid NSX, and boy, did they pull out all the stops for it. This car has 602 horsepower and more track-focused aerodynamics than a standard NSX. It's quick, it's slick, and it's rare, especially because they only made it for the Japanese and North American markets. And while Max lives in Monaco, where he's been spotted in a standard NSX, the Type S might be sitting in one of his garages, waiting for the perfect day to stretch its legs. If you're wondering what one of these beauties would cost you, try around $200,000, unless of course you're Max Verstappen and you can get one as a thank you gift. But even with all that F1 loyalty to Honda, Max couldn't resist the call of another legendary brand, Ferrari. Now, that might raise a few eyebrows considering Ferrari's been one of his fiercest rivals on the track, but off the track, let's face it, Ferrari knows how to build cars that make people drool. And one of the most stunning examples of that is the Ferrari Monza SP2. It's something straight out of a car lover's fantasy. It's a modern take on the old-school racing Balichettas, and it's about as close as you can get to driving a vintage sports car without actually being in the 1950s. There's no roof, no windshield, just you, the car, and the road ahead. With a 6.5-litre V12 that cranks out 799 horsepower, this isn't just a showpiece, it's a rocket ship. But what makes the Monza SP2 even more special is how rare it is. Ferrari only built 499 of these street-legal race cars, and each one came with a price tag of around $2.5 million. When reports started surfacing in 2020 that Max had bought one, it just made sense. I mean, if anyone deserves to drive a Ferrari that feels like an F1 car on the streets, it's Verstappen. It's just a bit ironic, isn't it? The guy who's battling Ferrari on Sundays is driving one of their finest creations during the week. But the Ferrari Monza SP2 isn't the only prancing horse in Max's garage. Let's talk about another beast from Maranello, the Ferrari SF90 Stradale. Now, this one's named after Ferrari's 2019 Formula One car, the SF90, which makes it a bit special in Max's collection. It's like Ferrari took everything they knew about F1, wrapped it up in a supercar and threw it on the road. The SF90 Stradale is a mid-engine hybrid monster, blending a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 with a set of electric motors. Together, they churn out a staggering 986 horsepower. That's a whole lot of power for something you can technically drive to the grocery store. And Max didn't just casually add this car to his fleet, he reportedly took delivery of it early in 2023. And of course, he went for the classic Ferrari red. If you're thinking about picking one up, well, too late. They've been recently discontinued. But when they were available, they started at around $460,000. And that's before you start adding any extra goodies. Sure, it's a far cry from the multi-million-dollar price tags of some other cars in his collection, but the SF90's blend of technology and speed makes it one of the most advanced cars out there. For Max, this car probably feels like a natural fit, given its direct connection to F1, and it's not hard to see why. It's blisteringly fast, and with all that hybrid tech, it's pretty cutting edge too. But wait, another gem Max reportedly owns is the Ferrari 488 Pista. If the SF90 is all about modern hybrid power, the 488 Pista is Ferrari's love letter to raw, track-ready performance. With its 3.9-litre twin-turbo V8, the Pista pumps out a healthy 710 horsepower. It's lighter than the standard 488 GTB and built to dominate on both the track and the road. Not a lot is known about Max's 488 Pista though. It's one of those cars that's been rumoured to sit in his collection, and while we don't have concrete proof it's still there, it's safe to assume a machine like that doesn't just get kicked out of a collection like his. When it first came out in 2018, a Pista would have set you back at least $320,000, but today they're worth even more, as people are starting to recognize it as an instant classic. After all this talk of Ferraris, you might be thinking that Max is only a fan of Italian supercars, but don't forget, this is a guy who had ties to more than just one brand. In fact, one of the most interesting cars he owned for a short while wasn't Italian at all. It was a 2017 Mercedes-Benz C63 S-AMG, a powerful, stylish German coupe. The C63 S-AMG might be the cheapest car in his garage, with a price tag of around $75,000 when new. But don't let that fool you. With a 4-litre V8 under the hood, this car can push 504 horsepower and hit 60 miles an hour in under 4 seconds. But for Max, it wasn't a keeper. The story goes that he sold it not long after he bought it, with Top Gear Netherlands hinting that Max was the well-known F1 driver who put it up for auction. Maybe it didn't excite him enough, or maybe it didn't just have the staying power in a collection filled with multi-million-dollar exotics. Either way, it's a brief but interesting stop in Max's car journey. Now, if you think Max was done with Aston Martin after the Valkyrie, think again. The man clearly has a soft spot for British engineering. He's also been spotted with a 2018 Aston Martin Vantage. This car is like a perfect blend of luxury and performance, with its 4-litre twin-turbo V8 producing 503 horsepower. In an interview, Max himself admitted to loving the aggressive look of the Vantage. It's a smaller, more nimble Aston Martin, but don't be fooled, it's got the punch to back up its sleek design. At around $150,000, it's a relatively affordable addition to his collection, but there's no denying its place in Max's heart, especially since he's had a hand in the development of a couple of Aston Martin's models over the years. And speaking of Aston Martins, let's not forget the 2016 Aston Martin DB11. This is where luxury meets raw power, with a massive 5.2-litre V12 roaring under the hood, producing 528 horsepower. The DB11 isn't just about going fast, it's about doing it with style. Max could comfortably cruise at 187 miles per hour in this Grand Tourer, making it perfect for those long drives across the coastline if he ever feels like slowing down. Priced at around $215,000, it's another example of Max's taste for powerful, elegant machines. Then we step up to the 2018 Aston Martin DBS Superleggera. If you thought the DB11 was impressive, wait until you hear about this one. It's got the same V12 engine, but Aston Martin cranked it up to deliver a whopping 715 horsepower. That's more than enough to get you from 0 to 60 miles per hour in less than 4 seconds, and it can top 200 miles per hour. Max has a thing for cars that not only look good, but can blow past just about anything on the road, and the DBS Superleggera fits that bill perfectly. At $307,820, it's one of the more expensive Astons in his lineup, and for good reason. It's big, It's fast, and it's just as comfortable on a highway as it is at top speed. Finally, we arrive at something a bit more unusual in Max's collection, the 2014 Renault RS01. You might not have heard of this car, but it's a purebred race car built by Renault, and it's got the engine of a Nissan GT-R. That's right, a 3.8-litre twin-turbo V6 pushing out 549 horsepower in a carbon fiber body built for the track. It's light, it's fast, and it's made for one thing: racing. With a price tag of around $400,000, it's not your typical street car. But for a racer like Max, it's right at home in his garage. After all, what better way to keep your skills sharp than with a car that feels just as at home on the track as your F1 car? If you enjoyed this ride through Max's collection, don't forget to like this video, drop a comment below, and tell us which car was your favorite.